Hello everyone, welcome back. I wanted to share something real quick that is probably one of the freakiest, craziest things I've seen on the internet in a while, and it has to do with what most of you know of as predictive programming, and we have thought that this is sort of a newer phenomenon that happens now where they put things like in Simpsons shows that happen with the presidency and the Twin Towers and all of these things that we see. And it's pretty much just the plan of these Luciferians that run things, their little plan, and they put it out there. They can put it in stone like the Georgia Guidestones and nobody bats an eye. But we see these things happen all the time. This little story here, though, that I'm about to share with you, I found on Facebook from, I guess it was Young Dre, I don't know who that is, posted this initially, and it's freaky. And we're going to dig into it. I just want to go through it real fast, get your thoughts and find out if this is an actual book. It appears to be. And I'm going to read this. I'm going to narrate this to you so you can hear it. You don't have to read it, but you can read along if you want to. And it says here, the person said, "So I'm on the Office of Congress Library website and came across this book written in 1893. Look at the title." Probably can't see it because it's very low quality, but I'll zoom in on it. It says, Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey. Baron Trump. Doesn't seem to really ring a bell, probably, unless you're familiar with the fact that the book is about a boy, of course, named Baron Trump, and he found a secret portal and time traveled. But that's not the crazy part. Hashtag wait for it. Baron Trump is Donald Trump's son. Okay? Looks a lot like the boy on the cover, if you look at him. They look a lot alike. And remember, this was written in the 1800s. Okay. But it says, in the book, Baron Trump had a mentor he looked up to, named, guess what? Don. This crap gets even better. And all the crap in the book takes place in Russia. Guess who's from Russia? Melania Trump. She's from Russia. Well, there was a sequel to this book that was written 4 years later in 1896. The same author writes this sequel, and he calls it The Last President. And this is when it gets real. The Last President. Okay? It's about a very wealthy man who lived in New York on Fifth Avenue who ran for president but wasn't expected to win. Look where Trump Tower's address is. Fifth Avenue, New York. It's crazy. Somebody tell me this is not based on this book. There's no way that's in the book. I'm going to have to look into this. But if it's really in that book, because the person told us, hey, look into it yourself, I would really like to see that. That's pretty crazy. But it says, remember, this book was written over 124 years ago. But anyways, after his inauguration, he started picking people for his cabinet. And guess who was one of the people? The guy's name was, he was in agriculture. It was Lafay Pence. P-E-N-C-E. Pence. Mike Pence. God, that is crazy. I couldn't believe I was reading this. Whoever put this together and figured this or found this, props to you. This is pretty cool. Pretty deep rabbit hole stuff here that you just cannot make up unless you know the plan. But in 1943, one of the most famous inventors, named Nikola Tesla, died from a blood clot. Before his death, he claimed he had built a time machine and used it to travel back in time and into the future. I see, now this is where I get kind of lost because I don't know much about anything, if that's verified or whatever, or a valid story if he'd ever claimed that. But after he died, the United States government took all of his inventions and notes. The name of the office that seized all of his work was the Office of Alien Property. After they looked through it, they passed it to the FBI. This is an actual office. It's called the Office of Alien Property. And that's pretty much something that was during World War I and again during World War II. And it was a custodian of enemy property, property that belonged to U.S. enemies. Nikola Tesla was not our enemy as far as I knew. But just so you know, that's a real government office. Keep reading, it gets crazier. After they gave up on trying to figure his inventions out, they hired an outside engineer who could understand the work of Nikola Tesla. And guess who this dude was? John G. Trump. This is the famous electrical engineer and inventor and physicist. He was a recipient of U.S. President Ronald Reagan's National Medal of Science and a member of the National Academy of Engineers. John Trump is Donald Trump's grandfather. But after studying the time machine notes and inventions of Nikola Tesla, he told the government he didn't find anything. And it says here, could he have lied to keep the inventions to himself and out of the hands of the government? I don't believe that's the case. I just think this is all part of that like predictive programming rabbit hole type stuff. But it says, fun fact, Donald Trump's mama, her name is Mary, and his father, his middle name is Christ. And he was born on the night of a total lunar eclipse. Mother's name Mary, father's name Frederick Christ. Interesting stuff. And yes, he was born June 14th, 1946 on a supposed lunar eclipse. Little freaky. And you see things like that. People say, like in the Bible, how it says at the last trump, then the sun will return. It'd be weird if it was actually talking about Trump, but I know it's not. But you never know.
Leaping around in time, I've run into many people, but never over one. Hope you don't mind sharing a cab.
Oh, no problem. It's just right up ahead here on 5th Avenue.
Where are you going?
Brokers meeting, New York Realtors. Come on, Donald.
Hello, Mr. Trump. Well, you know there's going to be a lot of money made in real estate in the future.
Really? Where?
Come on, Donald.
Hello, Mr. Trump. Well, I bet there are going to be a lot of taller buildings all around here. And there might even be some big flash tower right there next to Tiffany's.
There you go. Come on, Donald.
Hello, Mr. Trump.
Come on, Donald.
Hello, Mr. Trump.
See ya.
36, 37, 38, 39, 40.
The Donald Trump 58 Matrix you won't believe. The Trump Matrix begins in 1958 in this episode of a Western-themed show, which originally aired on CBS. It began making its rounds shortly after Donald Trump was elected president. The episode includes a con man named Walter Trump, who enters a dusty town in Texas to scare the locals into believing that the world will end in a rain of cosmic fire unless they let him build a giant wall to protect them. He says, "I am the only one, trust me. I can build a wall around your homes that nothing will penetrate." The episode was titled "The End of the World." And in fact, it ends with Trump being shot and apparently killed. Now, we've all seen this clip, but what you haven't seen is what I'm about to show you next. There is something about the year 1958, because Trump also appears in a 1992 episode of Quantum Leap that you just saw. That episode is set to the year 1958, May 10th, the same year as the Western. And 58 years after 1958, Trump would become president of the United States. I'll say that again. 58 years after 1958, Trump would become president of the United States. So when did the 1958 Western episode of Trackdown air? May 9th, 1958. That's the eve of the date that Quantum Leap was set to, in which Trump appeared. Now, we all know that in Back to the Future, it starred Biff Tannen. And The original Back to the Future, released in the mirror year of 1958, 1985, 85, 58. But it goes deeper because Biff would go on to be depicted as Donald Trump in the 1989 sequel. You begin to wonder, is time travel real? The 58 Matrix goes on because on the eve of the 88th day of the year, March 28th, March 29th is the 88th day of the year, Trump, or Biff, he turns 21 and uses a sports almanac to bet on a horse race. And that is how he wins his first $1 million. How old was the real Trump in 1958? 12. 12, 21. Another Back to the Future mirror. Now this is all a whole lot of script writing acrobatics across multiple episodes to be just some kind of coincidence. So now you may be thinking, did anything weird happen when Trump was 58 years old? And in fact, something did. He married the First Lady of the United States, Melania, on January 22nd, 2005. That's almost exactly 11 years before she would become the First Lady and he would be inaugurated president. And I'll leave you with this last bizarre synchronicity from the film called The Devil's Advocate. And it released on October 17th in the Hebrew year 58.
These are the Republicans of New York.
You know, Barshun always overstates things.
Donald Trump was supposed to be here.
Donald Trump was supposed to be here. Donald Trump was supposed to be here.
Business emergency. Probably Fort Zuckerman.
Oh, Hans, you here? I'd like to meet my wife, Marianne. Marianne, this is Pam here.
Pam here.
Pam here. Marianne, this is Pam here. Marianne, this is Pam here.
So, the only actress to mention Trump's name in The Devil's Advocate was in fact born on the 58th day of the year. And if the setting for the Devil's Advocate building looks familiar, it should, because it's the same architect that designed Trump Tower. This world is run by demons. It always has been, and it always will be, until Christ's return. Take care and be safe, you guys.
Behold, I send you out as sheep amidst the wolves. See how beautiful you are.